Okay, let's get the vitals out of the way. What's the name on the birth certificate?
Cornelia McCoy Sheridan.
And the place?
Concord, New Hampshire.
So when we first met, you lived in New England.
Mm-hmm.
And then for many years you were in Moab, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Now back in New England, specifically Boston now, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Does you feel like you're home now?
Yes, although when I go back to Moab, Utah, that feels like home too. So that's
great.
a really nice thing.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Tell us about your early music development, your education. Did you have formal or classical training?
I did. In my family, you had to play 2 years of piano. And my sister was a concert pianist, and I was never going to equal her. So as soon as I was done with my 2 years, I was out of there because the piano teacher kept saying, "Don't you want to be as good as your sister?" So I thought, you know what? I'm going to find a different instrument. So I also, when they started the band program, I took up oboe. Why? I can't remember. And I learned pretty much all of my music theory by playing oboe. I played it all the way until the end of high school. And but there was a guitar under the piano. And the guitar was never touched, but my babysitter across the street played guitar, and she said she would teach me. So at 9, I carried my guitar across the street once a week, and she would teach me how to play guitar. So yes, I definitely have a lot of stuff that meant that I can read music. It's not like that's how I approach the guitar, though, because it's interesting that all the classical stuff was, the oboe lessons and the piano lessons. But then when you played guitar, it was fun, because it just said little boxes, and there was an A chord over one, and then a D chord, and it was so much less worry than having to read the music. So every time it came to guitar, it was like relaxing. So
When you brought it, when you did that, did you bring any of that theory to the guitar?
I do now. I didn't for a long time. Probably until my late 20s when I always had it. I could read and I knew what was going on. But I really started integrating it when I sort of came to a point in my songwriting when I'd written every song that was just naturally going to occur to me. And I had to start thinking, okay, how are you going to build a song differently now? Oh, now we should start thinking about the theory of it.
We're going to talk more about that. Mm-hmm. That's great. I want to come back to your upbringing and your family. You've written a number of songs that reference your dad mm-hmm. and your mom. Mm-hmm. And there's some of my favorites, in fact, of your songs. Would you talk to us a little bit about one or both of them, their impact on you, and how that has found its way into your music?
Yeah. I think even though my dad was musical and emotionally he was like the softie in the family, so he's the, I sat on his lap. My mom's family was the more musical, and her father was my greatest musical influence. My grandfather, who used to come to the house and he would play stride piano. He would entertain us for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he taught himself how to play piano, and he played that beautiful stride. And we had this old grand piano, and I could sit under it as a child. And if you've ever looked under a piano where the soundboard is, there's huge squares of the bracing. Well, if you're 5 years old, your foot fits perfectly inside that bracing, and you feel the piano, and you feel everything it does. It's like having, your feet are getting the entire sound. And I fell in love with acoustic music because of that huge amount of energy coming at me from the piano.
And you wrote a song about that.
I did. I wrote a song about my grandfather doing that very thing.
Yeah. You want to do that?
Sure, yeah. Okay. I can do that. We have to do an open tuning. So George would play the music, and he had taught himself to play piano. And this song actually has an 18-year arc of creation. When I was in high school, I went to a boarding school, and it was in the 80s when everybody's a little bit hippy-dippy. And they let me have a senior project of learning how to be a folk singer. And I got to go to bars, and I had a guitar teacher, and he said, we're going to write songs. So this is a song that I wrote for my senior recital in high school. Part of it. And then I put it away for 18 years because it really wasn't quite what this song is now. But the generous, the seed of it definitely was that. And over the years as I performed it, I wanted to get people to have a feeling of what George felt like when he showed up. So here's how it starts. I'd like you to imagine that on stage is a grand piano. Seated at it is a man in a gray suit with a red tie. He's playing 76 trombones, lead the big parade. And his grandchildren are marching around the room. It's Thanksgiving. When my grandmother leaves the room, he will sing you dirty verses to songs he learned in college. Get out your old rubber bustle. Get out and hustle, 'cause the rent is coming due. While you're out there making money, I'll be waiting for you, honey. If you can't get 5, take 2. Well, my grandfather used to play 76 trombones, and Miss Otis regrets on a piano, down on a flatbread truck, all the way down Main Street, with the color guard and the vets. And my grandmother saved the picture that they ran in the paper, George and his ivories in the lead. 76 trombones lead the big parade, George and his 88 keys. And Miss Otis regrets that George will be unable to lunch today, 'cause he's down the hall in his room with some childhood tune that will not get out of his way. And there's a bird on the windowsill, or is that his old backyard? And the sparrow that once sat on his palm. 76 trombones lead the big parade. In George's head, now they all play different songs. And she wore a tulip, a big yellow tulip, and he wore a big red rose. And George wears what the nurse dresses him in. Now he can't understand his clothes. And my grandmother comes to help him eat his lunch every day and sits with him through the long afternoons. 76 trombones lead the big parade, and love does not forget its tune. Grace, where is your sweet sound? Let it come and abide with me. In the gathering dark, we'll play a song in F sharp. George taught himself on just the black keys. And we'll play it by ear to chords